enforcements and actions we've taken at the borders. In some, we stepped up. We engaged closely and constructively with the President and his administration. We did everything we promised. We stuck to our word. And we did it because we believe in working together to protect our citizens. Now I want to speak directly to one specific American, Donald. In the over 8 years you and I have worked together, we've done big things. We signed a historic deal that has created record jobs and growth in both of our countries. We've done big things together on the world stage, as Canada and the US have done together for decades, for generations. And now we should be working together to ensure even greater prosperity for North Americans in a very uncertain and challenging world. Now, it's not in my habit to agree with the Wall Street Journal, but Donald, they point out that even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do.
You just heard the Canadian Prime Minister speak out against the latest tariffs, calling them senseless, given the long-standing partnership between the two nations and their history of honoring trade commitments. Yet, despite this, a 25% tax has been imposed on Canadian goods. Tariffs are nothing new, but do they actually benefit the economy, or are they just political maneuvers? Right now, a fresh wave of tariffs is sending shockwaves through global markets, with steep new taxes hitting imports from Canada, Mexico, and China. Some say this is a smart economic strategy to protect American jobs and industries. Others argue it's nothing more than a political stunt, one that could end up hurting everyday people, especially lower-income families, more than it helps. So, what's really going on here? Are these tariffs part of a long-term economic plan, or are they just a way to score political points? More importantly, how will they affect businesses, investors, and you, the consumer? Let's break it down. Let's start with the facts. These new tariffs officially went into effect on March 4, 2025, after being announced in February. They include a 25% tariff on all imports from Mexico and Canada, plus an additional 10% tariff on Chinese goods, bringing some of them up to 35% when combined with existing duties. The administration justifies these measures as necessary to address issues like illegal immigration, drug trafficking, and trade imbalances. However, the broader implications of such sweeping tariffs have sparked intense debate among economists and policymakers. Markets didn't take this news well. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100 took a hit almost immediately after the announcement. Investors know what happens when tariffs disrupt supply chains. Costs go up, margins shrink, and uncertainty sets in. But beyond the stock market, let's talk about what this means in the real world. Inflation is already a concern, and now businesses that rely on imports are looking at higher costs. When that happens, there are only two choices. Either they absorb the losses, which rarely happens, or they pass those costs on to customers. That means price hikes on cars, groceries, electronics, pretty much anything that involves imported parts or goods. And here's something economists are warning about: the risk of stagflation. That's when prices keep rising, but economic growth slows down, leaving people stuck, paying more while wages don't keep up. Sound familiar? That's exactly what we saw in the late 1970s, and it didn't end well. Here's where things get real. Tariffs don't hit everyone the same way. If you're wealthy, a small increase in prices is an inconvenience. But for middle and lower income families, it's a serious problem. Take food, for example. Mexico is one of the biggest suppliers of fresh produce to the U.S. Avocados, tomatoes, peppers, staples in many households are all going to see price hikes because of these tariffs. And gas? That 10% tariff on Canadian crude oil could push fuel prices up, which means higher transportation costs, leading to, you guessed it, higher prices on everything else. Then there's manufacturing. If you need a new car or even just a repair, expect to pay more. Many auto parts come from Mexico, and with a 25% tariff, that cost is going to be passed down to car owners. And small businesses that rely on imported supplies, they're going to feel the squeeze, which could lead to layoffs, hiring freezes, or even closures. So why did Trump want to impose those tariffs? One of the primary justifications given for these tariffs is the fight against the fentanyl crisis. The administration argues that these tariffs will pressure countries like China, Mexico, and Canada to take stronger actions against the production and distribution of fentanyl, a synthetic opioid responsible for numerous overdose deaths in the United States. However, experts question the effectiveness of this approach. While China has been identified as a major source of fentanyl and its precursor chemicals, the country implemented a ban on all fentanyl-related substances in 2019. Despite this, the U.S. continues to face challenges in curbing the influx of fentanyl, suggesting that the problem is complex and multifaceted. Critics argue that imposing broad tariffs may not directly address the specific issues related to fentanyl trafficking and could instead strain diplomatic relations and economic ties. This brings us to the big question. Are these tariffs really about strengthening the economy, or are they more about politics? Supporters argue that tariffs are a tool to level the playing field, protect domestic jobs, and push back against trade imbalances. In some cases, that's true. Certain industries, like steel and domestic manufacturing, might see short-term benefits. But history tells us a different story. The last major tariff war, back in 2018-2019, led to a slowdown in global trade and cost American consumers billions in higher prices. Many economists believe we're seeing the same playbook again, especially in an election year. This isn't just about economics. It's about optics. Tariffs are an easy way to appear tough on foreign competition, even if the long-term effects are harmful. And let's be honest, if these tariffs were truly about economic strategy, wouldn't there be a more comprehensive plan in place? Where's the investment in domestic production to offset the reliance on imports? Where's the support for industries that will bear the brunt of these cost increases? Without those elements, this starts looking less like a well-thought-out policy and more like a political stunt designed to rally certain voter bases. So, what happens next? Well, one possibility is that this escalates into another trade war, with Canada, Mexico, and China responding with tariffs of their own. If that happens, we could see even more price hikes and market instability. For consumers, the best thing to do right now is prepare for potential price increases. That means budgeting wisely, considering alternatives for imported goods, and paying close attention to how these policies affect everyday life. But what do you think? Are these tariffs going to help in the long run? Or are they just another political move that will end up costing consumers more? Let me know in the comments. Hit that like button if this breakdown helped you understand what's going on. And make sure to subscribe for more insights into the economic forces shaping our world. Thanks for watching.